In Module 1, we will begin by reviewing, do a quick recap on the essential wisdom we explore in workshop 6, right? Specifically chapter 17 to chapter 20. This is what we covered in the workshop 6. Each chapter offers a very powerful insight into how we can live with more peace, with more clarity, and with more alignment with the Tao. Let's revisit them one at a time. If you can recall, in workshop 6, module 2, we discussed chapter 17. This chapter is all about leadership, influence, and how trust really works. And here's the twist. The Tao Te Ching flips everything we think we know about earning trust. Most people believe that to inspire trust, you need to talk more, you need to explain yourself, you need to prove your competence. But Lao Tzu tells us the opposite. Deep trust grows when you say less, not more. When leaders speak less, they are more trusted. Silence allows people to fill in the gaps with confidence. So sometimes, a lot of times, over-explaining, may signal some doubts, uncertainty, or neediness of the matter. And in the last workshop, Lao Tzu say the highest influence is invisible, 太上. 太上 leadership, if you all can remember, I said this word, 太上 leadership, which means is the highest influence is invisible. Those who lead by example, those who lead by action rather than words, inspire loyalty naturally. So influence is not about pushing or convincing, it's about aligning with the natural flow. And it's called 道正合一. So trust emerges from integrity and consistency. People will notice what you do more than what you say. So consistency in behavior builds quiet authority, not loud proclamation. So remember this, consistency in your behavior builds quiet authority. And then Lao Tzu went on in chapter 17 saying that less is more in communication. Basically, it doesn't mean don't talk or don't communicate. Wrong concept. What it means by less is more in communication is choose your words carefully. Every word counts. Speaking less creates space for others to think, reflect, and engage. Now, you look at LKY, that the one that we know, okay? He's very careful with his word. Do you agree with me? What's the takeaway from here is that pause before responding. I know in some of my other courses, I keep emphasizing saying the difference between react versus respond. Right? So in this case here, Lao Tzu says, don't react. Pause first, then you respond. Okay? Don't rush to fill the silence. All right? So you can act first, explain later. So what it means here is let the result speak. And then after that, you observe reactions. Trust grows when others feel respected and not being pressured. So even in personal relationships, you'll notice that being present, being attentive, and you are measured with your words, that means careful with your words, you inspire more trust than constant talking non-stop, gibbling like that. Okay, so be careful with your words. Then chapter 17 reminds us that real leadership, real influence, and real trust don't come from loud words or constant explanation. If you can see someone or some country or some government keep emphasizing the same thing, like for example, democracy, human right, then they are over shouting already. Okay, so that is not real leadership at all. Real leadership should come from calm, consistent, and measured action that flow with nature's law. The subsequent modules in the workshop 6, in chapter 18, 19, and 20, keep repeating this principle. Saying less is not silence, it's power in motion. So that actually is the recap of chapter 17 that we covered in the previous workshop 6. So this is just a recap. So I just highlight all the key points. That's it. Then after that, in the last workshop, we move on to module 3, chapter 18. This chapter dives into the decline of moral authority and social harmony, and it is surprisingly relevant to how we inspire trust today. Most people believe that to maintain respect and trust, you must constantly correct, you must constantly instruct, and you must constantly enforce rules. Like some of the very strict parents, 虎妈还是虎爸 enforce rules at home. Even countries right now, you look at USA, they enforce very, I don't know. You have the ICE agent there going around enforcing immigration rules, and then get people killed as well. So Lao Tzu says the opposite. Trust and harmony emerge very naturally when you step back and you speak less. Sounds a bit controversial, right? Now, overcorrection may break the trust. When leaders, friends, partners over-explain or over-regulate, people feel controlled, people feel not respected. So the more you push, the less people trust your guidance. Next, Lao Tzu warned us, when cleverness and cunning appear, great lies soon follow. Now, this isn't about true insights. It's about using smartness as a tool for control. That means you have seen us, especially as scammers, they are very, very smart, but they use it in the wrong place. So here's the paradox. The more a ruler governs with clever rules, the more the people learn to fake compliance. Why? Very easy, right? You come up with a lot of those property cooling measure, right? You find that there are a lot of property agent and home buyers too clever and to find loopholes to circumvent the regulations. So this is called fake compliance. In Chinese history, we call it 上有政策,下有对策. The government has policies, no doubt. The people will have countermeasures. So this isn't just ancient talks. It's still very alive today. And in the last workshop, I've shared with you several examples. Laws are created to keep order, right? But those very laws create a whole industry of loophole experts who make a living teaching others how to skirt around all those laws. So this is why Lao Tzu says too much cleverness at the top may breed hypocrisy at the bottom. It's not about good or bad. It's about understanding human nature. Now, real wisdom is simple and truthful, not complicated, not deceptive. So don't confuse being clever with being genuine. Next, Lao Tzu says, 六亲不和有孝慈. Now, when families stop getting along, they start having argument, they start harming each other. People will start, after a while, you find that there are other people who may start preaching filial piety and kindness. Why? Because true filial love and kindness are supposed to be natural. They don't need to be pushed. They don't need to be highlighted. So if there's a family who like to showcase their filial piety or their love for any of their family or family members, that could be fake, right? True goodness, filial piety, they can't be pushed, they can't be forced. When you have forced it, it is a sign something is wrong underneath. I've also cited an example in the last workshop about this fake filial. It's often a mask for self-interest. When someone has to loudly prove they are filial, we should ask why they need to prove it at all. This example, Yang Ying, has been very loud about how should he take care of this supposedly godmother. Okay, so true filial piety is quiet, constant, natural. Like I said, it doesn't need a PR campaign. If we only judge by appearances, by what they show to the world, we risk applauding, the many Yang Yings out there, while missing the quiet, genuine ones who don't shout about their filial, about their goodness. Last but not least, Lao Tzu also say, 国家混乱有忠臣, meaning when the country is in chaos, loyal ministers naturally will appear. So on the surface, it seems like Lao Tzu is praising the ministers. Oh, finally we have a loyal minister. But no, no, no. Lao Tzu is saying, look closer. He's really pointing out something very, very uncomfortable. He said, if everything is running well, very well, this extreme intervention won't be needed. That means you don't even need a lawyer minister to come out to say something bad about the system or about the rules, about the regulation or something like that. Okay, so that discomfort is the point. The good lawyer ministers or the advisors or the critics, brilliance only shines because it subtly highlight the flaws of the leader. And I have also show one example, right, about I think last year, about there's a feedback about the Bukit Canberra Hawker Center about why the hawkers need to bear the cost of providing a free meal or something like that, or budget meal, if I'm not wrong, budget meal, not free meal, budget meal. Okay, and then the minister came out very strongly to defend this policy. The fact that the minister has to strongly come out to defend this policy, meaning there's some flaws there already. If this policy is so well run, so good, there won't be any critic coming out to go and complain. Okay, so just be mindful. Loyal critics don't exist to celebrate. They exist because something is broken. If someone is willing to spend the time to step up to say that, hey, there's something wrong with this policy, then there must be something noteworthy to look at. Or don't dismiss so fast. And then we move on to module 4 in the last workshop. In this module 4, we tear apart the idea that more cleverness equals more progress, and see why simplicity, purity, and fewer desires might be the ultimate smart. Let's hit this straight. Lao Tzu in chapter 19 says, stop worshipping smart people and chasing clever ideas, and the people will be 100 times better off. What he's really warning against is the ego trap of looking smart. Now, what does it mean? The type someone gets praised once and then suddenly they are inflating themselves. They like the praise so much and then they start to think they are really, really very good, and they will start dropping important advice everywhere. Insisting everyone follow the plan. Okay, and I think there's one very classic examples. I've shown the picture here, and remember he said that he can end the Ukraine-Russian war in 24 hours if he take office. And now I think it's 1 year already. It's still the same. So a lot of time, most people are just not listening to what he says anymore. They just don't care already, right? So basically, your wisdom, your clever ideas, they only work when shared with humility. So stop trying to live like everyone else. Stop parroting the right words, the popular path, or the expected lifestyle. Your life doesn't need to be a copy. It only needs to be yours, uniquely yours. Own it, speak your truth, and then live your rhythm. So stop demanding, all the good virtue like politeness, filial piety as, those checklists. Stop the false kind of righteousness. Focus on creating the conditions where genuine care, genuine gratitude, and respect can arise on their own. Don't force it, because you will just invite false compliance. So true connection doesn't need scripts. It will just happen naturally. Then Lao Tzu says, 绝巧凄厉, 盗贼无有, basically means a thief can be smart, resourceful, and skilled. Just look at how easily someone can hack your phone, pick your lock, or even scam you online. So cleverness is not the problem. It's not the core problem. Misusing cleverness for selfish gain is. Lao Tzu warns us the trap of wisdom, virtue, and cleverness. If these are used only as decoration as a surface show, wayang, they are not enough. They become very shallow, they become very childish, and they become very useless. True value comes only when these qualities are built on a real foundation. So like I've said just now, the budget meal thing, look around today, many leaders, companies, and even influencers decorate themselves with a lot of wisdom, a lot of kindness, a lot of cleverness, but without substance. So surface without substance will collapse very, very fast. And Lao Tzu said, the last sentence of this chapter, see the pure, embrace simplicity, think less, desire less. 少思寡欲 is saying it's a reminder for all of us. 少思寡欲 basically means think less, desire less. What does that mean? It means human beings are born with a pure, untainted nature. When someone is in danger, like falling into a ditch, collapse on the streets, you don't need to ask the background or calculate the risk. The right thing is to go and help. Okay, so think less lah. All right, you don't have to go and calculate, or should I help or not? Should I not help or not? Okay, will I get a reward if I help? Something like that. Don't think too much. It's your natural instinct to go and help. You go and help. Now, Darren says, listen again more today. Clear yin-yang thoughts comes out. When we always say balance in Chinese metaphysics, not the so-called balance I understand before. The more force we engage on an element, more yang, time will show we are coping something not helping us. Yin comes more. Therefore, the behavior, the outcomes shows that we show to the world. Putting a local way talk, 拿强卖强卖给强 the Hokkien Okay, then we in the process to manage the balance in life. Okay, so yin yang balance, as most people, even masters, will tell you it is 50-50 called balance, yin yang balance. But my way of understanding yin yang balance is not. It's not die 50-50 kind of balance. No, not necessarily 50. I've highlighted one point about 公平 right? 公平 So 公平 is not 50-50 公平 is 合理的不公平就是公平 So that means it tends to be lopsided when we talk about yin-yang balance, or the word balance tends to be a bit lopsided one, which is fine. As long as it is 合理 reasonable 不公平 it is 公平 already. Where was I? Okay, just now I talk about, 少思寡欲. Is your natural instinct to go and help, you go and help. You don't go and calculate whether got profit to help or not. Okay, so, but today, you look around us, doing good actually can become very risky. Why? I'll give you an example. In Yishun, Singapore, a doctor performed CPR on a patient at a clinic. And then what happened after helping out? He received a 3-month suspension for allegedly not following those medical protocol. Now, these are not isolated incidents. You can go and Google. There are many other modern tragedy like this case, whereby the law and the fear of accusation are now slowly replacing human instinct and empathy. So people freeze instead of helping. So kindness suddenly has become very dangerous, right? So Lao Tzu's lesson is very clear. The pure, simple human heart, the instinct to help, cannot be traded for fear, shouldn't be traded for rules or appearances. And then Lao Tzu ends off this chapter reminding us fear of legal or social consequences is actually teaching people not to be human. Morality is not in the rules, it's not in the titles or formality. It is in the raw, unpolished essence of our life. Okay, again, back to this 少思寡欲, think less, desire less. Sounds simple, but in practice, it's radical. Why? Because our minds are wired with private interest. Every one of us, me included, are wired with private interest. I mean, personal agenda and private interest. And our hearts are pulled by constant desires. The moment we chase more than what we truly need, our natural goodness will get clouded. Modern life bombards us with endless desire. You look at all the advertisement nowadays. Look at all the social media showing up in front of you. new gadgets, status, symbols, social comparisons. Lao Tzu say focus on survival needs, reduce on your private agendas, act from conscious, that means 良心, and then you uphold fairness. When you do that, your natural goodness shines without effort. So stop overthinking. That's what it means by 少思寡欲. Stop overthinking, stop over desiring. It's fine to have some desires, but don't over or excessive desiring. Okay, I mean indulgence lah. Let your actions comes from your conscience, 良心, and common sense and good judgment, not from ego, not from craving. Your best life is actually simple. It's already inside you. And then we move on to module 5 of the last workshop. Here, we step into one of Lao Tzu's most provocative teachings, the power of staying foolish in a clever world. From school exams to corporate KPIs, from social media trends to AI power hacks, everyone is chasing the next smart move. Lao Tzu is challenging us. Maybe the real strength in life isn't about outsmarting others, but about staying rooted, simple, and even appearing foolish in a world addicted to being smart. And that is actually the spirit of chapter 20. The only difference between sane and ordinary lies in whether you have walked through the process of losing, questioning, and returning. I repeat, the process of losing, questioning, and returning. And he used these 3 sentences. If you could recall, it is 见山是山, 见山不是山, 见山还是山. What does it mean here? Now, first, 见山是山 is a mountain, it's just a mountain. Ordinary, everyone's perception. And then 见山不是山 basically means you begin to question, you begin to doubt, you begin to deconstruct what you think you know. And then suddenly the mountain is no longer what you thought. And then finally, 见山还是山 basically means you return now with deeper clarity. And when you look back at that mountain, it's the same mountain, but now you fully understood that mountain. So the key is a real sage returns to simplicity after complexity. So you have to go through the process of losing, questioning, and returning. So there's a fine line between a fake sage and a true sage. The difference lies not in status, fame, or labels, but in whether you have truly gone through the journey of 见山不是山. That means seeing the illusion, and then return it back to 见山还是山. That means embracing the simplicity again. Then Lao Tzu starts chapter 20 with 4 words, 绝学无忧. 绝学无忧, loosely translated, it means stop chasing too much knowledge, and life brings less worry. Controversial. Does it mean don't learn? Stop learning? No, not at all. Not at all. Now, he's not saying don't learn. He's saying don't mistake knowledge for wisdom. Don't let titles, don't let intellectual pride becomes a new prison for you. Don't let learning turn into arrogance. Because sometimes the most learned person or the people are the ones in the deepest pain. And then look at Sam Bankman-Fried now. He was labeled as the next generation of Warren Buffett. But now take a look at him. Where is he? In jail. Okay, so often we call san means good, and means evil. This is just a matter of perspective, time, and context. Now, we exaggerate the gap between san and that means the good and evil. But when you zoom out, actually the line differentiating the good and the evil is actually very blurry. Right? So I think I've given you an example last round about Ukraine-Russian war, right? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Both seems to be the good guy. Both seems to be the bad guy at the same time. Okay, so the line differentiating between good and evil actually is very blurred. So it's just a matter of perspective, matter of time, and matter of context. Okay, and then another example is, I think I've also shared this workplace, Gen Z versus bosses. Many managers, I've heard from my clients, managers level, they complain about their Gen Z employees, that they say that those Gen Z employees, when they reply their WhatsApp, it's only okay, or maybe a thumbs up, or maybe even a K only. So those managers felt it's very disrespectful, right? After all, they work all the way up to that level. But the younger generation means no harm, right? It's just to them, the younger generation, it means efficiency. Yes, right? The yes sir versus the okay, actually the gap is very tiny only. But the overreaction by the manager creates sometimes, or a lot of times, workplace tension. And here's the shift Lao Tzu invites us into. Instead of clinging to the form basically meaning when someone said yes politely or casually, instead of clinging to those form, focus on the substance. Number one, did they respond? Yes, they did respond. Number two, did the action get done? Yes, the action get done. That's why they replied with okay. If both are yes, yes, then why did you why would you want to let the tiny differences poison your peace and the harmony? So basically, Lao Tzu says, don't magnify the tiny differences. Learn to see the bigger picture. Otherwise, you waste your life fighting over the tones of the message, the emojis used, or the manners, that don't really matters. Because if you can stop overreacting to the small things, suddenly you find that life feels much lighter. Right? Let's confront a subtle trap we all fall into. Fear comes from comparison. 老子 say, 人之所谓不可不畏. He points out something radical. Everyone fears something. Everyone, me included. You have a fear for something, right? It could be some loss, could be failure, could be judgment. But the fear of a true Tao practitioner is fundamentally different from ordinary type of fear. Most people chase status, wealth, or validation to soothe their fears. So they go for expensive dinners to show that they also got status, or they go and join golf club to show that they are in the group also, or they go on to talk about bragging about their lifestyle and things like that, so they are not the one left out. So they fear not measuring up. And what do? They overcompensate themselves. So Lao Tzu isn't telling us to be fearless. He's saying fear differently. What it means? He said, recognize the fear. Recognize that you have this fear, but don't be enslaved by it. Ordinary fear reacts, but cultivated fear will observe, will adapt, and then move forward. That's why there's a difference between react and respond. Okay? Those ordinary people who fear, they will react. Cultivated people who fear will respond. And how they respond? They will observe, they will adapt, and then they move forward. Now look at COVID-19 essential workers back in 2020. Those essential workers like nurses, doctors, they also fear exposure to the COVID, like every one of us. But they, being the healthcare workers, they acted with clarity, they acted with courage. This is cultivated fear. They acknowledged the fear, yet it did not control their decisions not to help, but they managed it consciously. So most people are terrified to be simple. Wow, why do I want to look so simple, right? I want to be elegant. I want to be of high status. So they are most people are terrified to look simple, to speak plainly, and to live honestly. I'm not sure why, but from my understanding from a lot of people, this is one of their fear too. Because society tends to mock simplicity as ignorance, right? 乡下佬, they call it 乡下佬 or 刷姑, something like that. Okay, so we are told to polish our words, our spoken language, control our tone, dress up our image, but the more we fear judgment like this, the more our true nature will be buried. that become you have to wear mask every day. Okay, look around. People rush from one indulgence to the next. You know, other people go for fine dining, you also go for fine dining. Other people go for exotic travel, you also go for exotic travel. And then people go for entertainment every weekend, you also go for entertainment every weekend. It looks like joy from surface, but often it is a mask covering up insecurity and fear. The truth is, pleasure without end is an illusion. Fear of judgment keep us chained to the illusion, and Lao Tzu invites us to flip this script. Because when you stop fearing society's noise, you return to something infinite, something vast, something real, your own unpolished, authentic self. So let me repeat this. Fear doesn't disappear when you earn more. It doesn't disappear when you perform better. It doesn't disappear when you buy a bigger house or bigger car. But fear will fade off when you stop performing for others and start living from your original nature. And Lao Tzu says, but I alone feels quiet, like a newborn who hasn't learned to smile. That's called Tanpo. Tanpo basically means the true inner calm. Unfortunately, many of us couldn't feel the inner calm nowadays. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, let me know if you can feel the inner calm. Most people today, although on surface they say, they want to be calm, they want to have the inner calm, yet they chase after more noise, they chase after more drama, they chase after more possessions and more indulgence. So that's not real calm. That's, to me, I call it performance. And compare that to a baby. What is inner calm? Compare that to a baby. A baby doesn't envy. A baby doesn't compare. A baby doesn't pretend. It just cries when hungry. It will sleep when it's fat or when it's full. And then smiles when it feels very comfortable. Yeah, very natural. No drama, no show. That's Lao Tzu's challenge to us. Can we return to that state of true simplicity or not? Not pretending to be calm, not performing calm, but actually being calm like a baby. Because in the end, like Lao Tzu said, everyone walks their own path. Your feast, your stage, your stress is actually all self-created. He also says the Tao is very, very wide. That means this bridge is very wide. Why force yourself onto the crowded, narrow bridge? So Lao Tzu's advice, don't chase illusion of success, but don't also reject life. Okay, there are many teachers out there. The bandwidth of the Tao is actually very wide. Don't have to squeeze into one corner with the rest of the world. Okay, just walk your Tao with ease, not with exhaustion. Lao Tzu remind us the world will always try to bury you with pressure and comparison. But you don't have to forget your true nature is actually effortless. Wu Wei. Okay, Lao Tzu also says, everyone else seems to have plenty. I alone seems to have nothing. So it's just a comparison. Like that the greenery is always, the pasture on the other side is always greener, that kind of a mentality. Yeah? Everyone seems to have plenty. I alone seems to have nothing. So you think about it. One closet with 100 suits sounds very rich. You have one wardrobe, inside got 100 suits, sound very rich, right? But every morning, whoever is the owner may be stuck wasting 30 minutes choosing which suit to wear for today. Meanwhile, someone with only one suit or uniform, they're already out of the door, free, light, moving forward, no stress. Think about it. So more is not more. Often more or excessive is actually suffering in disguise. So the mindset shift is this one. Happiness comes from needing less. Lao Tzu is telling us, don't mistake excessive for happiness. True happiness is freedom from the burden of excess. Very, very nice sentence. Let me repeat. True happiness is actually freedom from the burden of excess. And Lao Tzu also say, others look bright and clever, I alone seem dull and slow. Notice he didn't say 愚人之行. 愚人之行 means foolish action. He says 愚人之心. 之心 that means the heart. The heart of one who chooses not to compete. Now, in a world obsessed with winning, not fighting can look very foolish, right? But it's actually, Lao Tzu says, it's actually strength. He says the world loves to look clever, loves to look alert and in control. Okay, but for the true Tao practitioner, the power lies in quiet, deep, internal, almost hidden, common. In Chinese, common. Okay, so notice, I'm not actually clueless. Okay, on the outside, I may seem casual, I may seem humble or even naive, but inside, I'm fully aware. This is common. So this is what Chinese wisdom call 难得糊涂. It's very rare, it's very valuable to appear slightly muddled while fully aware inside. You know, it's like 砍卦. If you know 砍卦, 砍卦 is got substance inside one, but outside look very soft. Okay, that's why 砍卦 is often associated with wisdom. All right, so this is strategic simplicity. It's not foolishness. You think about it. Someone who constantly show off what they know, they attract comparison, they attract envy, they attract stress, like the 乾卦 San Yao. But someone who quietly holds their insights, act without ego, and let life unfold. They live without pressure. And others rarely will challenge them because they don't see them as a challenge or a threat. Like 乾卦第一爻. So you don't need to broadcast your wisdom. Okay? You don't need to impress to be respected. The truly cultured, the truly accomplished person often appear understated because their strength, their depth, and value are all internal, not external. All inside, not outside. It's 看卦. So Lao Tzu say, I float like the sea, I wander like the wind with no end. This is the paradox. True calm doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means you can withstand the wave without losing yourself. The truth is, life is never perfectly smooth. Just bear this in mind. Life is never perfectly smooth. There will be stress, there will be change, there will be conflict. It's like wave. The wave will always come. So the real mastery in life is learning to stay deep, calm, grounded, even when the chaos rise around you. Just like, many people are like a small, shallow bowls of water. Any small pressure, you start to spill the water over. Now, for Tao practitioner, the mind is like the ocean, very calm, yet full of waves. So calmness doesn't mean absence of movement. It means your depth, 沉浮, can absorb and withstand any turbulence. A small basin on the other hand, or the small bowl on the other hand, tips over at the slightest disturbance. So Lao Tzu is asking us to be ocean, to be the ocean, not the small basin. There will be wave, no doubt. Okay, whether it's ocean or the small bowl, there will be waves. But be the ocean, right? Let the wave rise and you won't tip over. So let the external noise exist, but maintain your internal depth. So as we wrap up this module 1, a recap of the last workshop, remember what Lao Tzu is showing us. The calmness, the inner steadiness, we call it the 淡定, that most people talk about so casually, is not easy to achieve. If I ask you to close your eyes for 5 minutes now, I'm sure a lot of things will show up in your mind. Okay, you cannot have that 淡定 status. Now, it is something, it is not something you can just say that you want 淡定. It is something that you have to practice deeply. Now, we have explored how true mastery often looks like simplicity, looks ordinary, or even foolishness from the outside. But inside, there is depth, there's discernment, and there's alignment with the Tao. So in this workshop today, this workshop 7, Lao Tzu will review a method called 道的生机妙用. Loosely translated, is called the living wondrous manifestation of the Tao. Now, it is a way to cultivate real inner freedom. If you want to go for the Tan thing, right? This is the one. It's the way to cultivate real inner freedom, subtle power, and effortless presence. And with this, let's move on to Module 2.